r/AskReddit. What's the scariest thing that happened to you when in someone else's house? Age 6-8ish. Slept over at a friend's house with my little brother. Her father woke us all up in the middle of the night, had us bundle up, and loaded us in the family minivan. He drove to a gas station and talked the whole way about how a bakery exploded behind their house. He said the resulting gases and such could kill us, so we had to try and drive as far away as possible. They were also our next door neighbors, so I was worried about our parents' safety. At the gas station, our friend's mom bought us snacks while he canvassed the area. I told her I didn't hear any explosion and asked about my parents. She must have called them from a payphone during the snack run, because they pulled up a few minutes later to take us home. I was, of course, terrified to go home. Later, our parents sat us down to explain that our friend's father was sick with something called schizophrenia that makes him hallucinate. While this is terrible, it's sort of wholesome as he was trying to take care of everyone, even if the events didn't actually happen, which is refreshing in this thread. Sleepover at best friend's house when I was about 12. Middle of the night after we'd fallen asleep. He wakes up and starts screaming that his head is going to explode. Not a bad dream. He keeps going, just screaming and crying and thrashing around. His parents wake up, scoop him up, and rush him to the hospital. Turned out he just never had a headache before, and his first was apparently a doozy. When I was 8 or 9, my friend's dad yelled at me, angrily, for pooping at their house. I lived down the street, so he told me that I should have went home to poop. This is messed up lol, how did he even know? There was poop in the living room. 15. Me and 2 other friends was at a friend's house. Him and his brother were arguing, then his older brother beat the absolute out of him. I tried to step in, then he shoved me in the wall. Then their father stepped in and started going ham on the older brother. There's always a bigger fish. I was 14 or 15 and spent many weekends at my friend's house. One day we discovered that her mom's boyfriend has a hidden camera in her room, under her desk. I was supposed to go on vacation with them and my mom told me she didn't feel comfortable with him. We found that camera a week later. Thanks mom. What was on the camera? After my parents found out about the camera and I was never allowed back to the house. Apparently her mom didn't want to report anything and by the time she confronted him the evidence was gone. I did find out about 2 years later that a stash of child stuff was found in his ceiling. Slept over at my friend's house one summer night during high school. Woke up to his mom calling out to him because his stepdad was unresponsive and passed away during the night. That's summit timing. Cause of death? The doctors weren't sure at first but came to the conclusion that it was a Widowmaker heart attack. Toilet won't flush. Seeing the water rising. Getting closer and closer to the top of the bowl. Praying for it to stop. Cursing yourself for not bringing your poop knife. Rookie mistake. Always gotta bring your poop knife. I was probably 7. My friend lived down the street. Her mom had invited some girls to come hang out from our class and she made us sandwiches, cookies, juice, popcorn. The normal girl day type of fun. We were in the garage playing. Her dad was either drunk or had an anger problem. He came in yelling at us, saying we were too loud. He grabbed my friend's mom by the arm and hit her. She started crying. Then, he grabbed my friend and spanked her. Alright. Well, he proceeded to grab each girl and spank them hard. I ran away as fast as I could back to my house. I remember my friend consistently coming to school being real tired, sometimes falling asleep at her desk. Farah, I hope you're okay. Not technically in someone else's house, but I was babysitting a special needs 2-year-old, and the kid wanted to go play outside. No biggie, but since it was fall in Alaska I wanted to make sure that it wasn't too cold out. I stepped outside to check their thermometer. The door locked behind me. I had no phone, and since it was Alaska the closest neighbor was too far away for me to leave the kid alone in the house to get help. So I ended up ramming into the door in a panic until the lock broke and I could get in. The kid was okay, got in the laundry but otherwise had no idea anything was wrong. I thought I would get in trouble for breaking their door but the mother said I could have broken a window and she wouldn't have cared. The mom paid me $50 for it, though, and that's a lot of money for a 12-year-old. Edit. To be clear, I didn't break the door itself, just the lock. Their lock wasn't a standard deadbolt or anything. It was a gate latch that was opened by a hidden string on the outside. The door couldn't be unlocked because the string had wrapped around the locking bolt, so it would pull tighter the more it was pulled. I opened the door by slamming against it enough that the bolt bent and I could get my fingers in there to lift it. It took a good hour or two of bashing the door. They replaced it with a deadbolt the next day. My cousin brings me to his friend's house. We all hang out in the basement. My cousin forgets his cigarettes and asks if I can grab them from his car outside. I think nothing of it, go grab the cigs and start making my way back to the house. I walk in the house by myself when I run into the friend's dad. This guy's father, who I've never met, just looks me up and down and goes, "Who the duck are you? Why are you in my house?" Mind you, we are in New Jersey and this is an Italian Guido family, so I'm basically getting yelled at by discount Tony Soprano. This guy's flipping out and I'm scared shitless, until my cousin comes storming upstairs and clears everything up. All my cousin had to say was, "Frank, this is my cousin," and just like that, crisis averted. Love you, New Jersey. Slept on a former friend's sofa. He decided to prank me by pretending to be a bugler wearing a ski mask. Then he pretended to try and kidnap me. Long story short, I broke his nose, and we are no longer friends. What if he was actually trying to kidnap you but his plans were ruined so he fell back on plan B? Haha, got you. This was our joke. I wasn't really going to sell your organs on the black market. My best friend's dad was in the reserves and would come home late at night a lot. One time he had come home and we didn't notice. We were heading to the kitchen to go make bread and cheese and we froze in the hallway because we saw someone kneeling in front of the fireplace which wasn't lit. We proceed to freak the duck out, which wakes dad up and he comes out of his room laughing his ass off. Turns out he thought it would be funny to set his duffel bag up, wrap his coat around it, hat on top, boots in front, and it looked just like some dude chilling with his head on his knees. Ol' Clarky boy, I miss him. He was so much fun. Completely unrelated story with him is he bought a gold VW Golf and when he came home with it he burst in my friend's bedroom where we were watching Dragon Ball and yells "I love Goo World" and runs off. He was always doing crazy it. Edit. Some people have asked for our bread and cheese recipe, so here you go. Get some uncut sub rolls. Hollow them out, stuff them with sharp cheddar, and then microwave them till they're gooey and melty. I'm afraid to try it now that I'm older. IDK if it'll make me at my pants or constipate me for a week. I was in high school and it was the first time I ever drank. I was asleep on the floor and my friend was asleep on the bed with her BF. It was late at night and the lights were off with the music playing. I'm a light sleeper, so the BF's drunk dad walked in and started peeing in the room. He didn't notice us there, hence always wear raincoats. You never know when one may come handy. One of my friends from childhood would have really bad night terrors. She would either wake up in the middle of the night screaming at the top of her lungs, or she would randomly jump up and start running for the front door trying to get away from whatever she thought was chasing her. It was always pretty terrifying waking up to her screaming or tripping over me while trying to get to the door. I house sat for my childhood crush when we were 12ish as her family went on a 6-week road trip around the US. They had a cat and a bird, and you see where this is going. This stupid little finch got out of its cage. Legit. The cage was closed when I returned the next day, and the cat killed it. I was obviously scared out of my mind of being the guy who killed Crush's bird, so I did the only logical thing and went to the pet store and bought both of the finches they had that looked identical. I had about 2 weeks to figure out which was more like the cat bait, and then, not knowing what to do with the other, I kept it. They never found out, or told me if they did, and that's the story of how I ended up with a pet finch. I was 18 and my friend and I were alone at her house. Her parents were going through a nasty divorce and her dad, who had anger problems, was not allowed to come near the house because the mom had a restraining order. He ended up banging on the door and trying to break in since he knew the mom wasn't home. We hid in my friend's room with a samurai sword while she called her mom to come home. While you were filing a restraining order, I was studying the blade. Forgetting to ask for a towel prior to getting into the shower. Oh god, you just dredged up a memory I have of sleeping at a friend's house when I was about 10. I was already in the shower when my friend came in and announced that her dad wanted a shower after me, and the towel I'd grabbed was the only clean towel, so her mom told her to take mine. I had to dry off with my dirty PJs. When I was 12, a SWAT team busted through my best friend's house. Turns out her dad was wanted for smuggling people drugs for the Mexican cartel. Fortunately, they hadn't seen him in several years. He's in prison now. I was cat sitting for some family friends. As I approached the house one evening, I noticed a light was on that hadn't been on that morning. I walked in the front door and yelled up the stairs, but didn't hear anything. There were small things that had been moved around, a knife on the counter and some trinkets, etc. But nothing was missing except the cat. It never came running for its food. I checked all the rooms but no sign of the kitty. I even checked the fridge and noticed the pepperoni had been moved from the shelf to the drawer. Why did the cat burglar move the damn pepperoni? Well, it turned out that the family had a maid that I didn't know about and she had accidentally closed the cat in a closet. I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Thank you for watching.